Okay, let's dive right into this. For this explainer, I want you to picture us sitting in a cozy library, a warm fire crackling in the hearth. Just imagine I'm your wise old grandfather, and I'm telling you, my granddaughter, a bedtime story. But, this isn't your typical fairy tale about dragons or princesses. No, this is a story about the true nature of strategy. You see, for decades, people have thought of strategy as this perfect, rigid map, a fixed document drawn up by brilliant captains in some quiet room, telling the crew exactly where to sail for the next 5 years. But the truth? The truth is much wilder than that. Strategy isn't a map at all. It's a ship. And we are navigating a very foggy, completely unpredictable sea. Now, the word strategia actually comes from ancient Greek, and it means the art of generalship. But even way back then, and certainly by 1832, when the military thinker Karl von Clausewitz wrote these famous words, they knew a little secret. No plan survives contact with the enemy. Clausewitz called it the fog of war and friction. He understood that strategy is all about navigating uncertainty, not drawing some perfect, static picture of the ocean. Because think about it. When your ship actually hits the waves, the wind changes, the currents pull, and that beautiful map you drew, it suddenly doesn't match the ocean outside your window at all. History really shows us this evolution. Way back around 500 BCE, ancient generals like Sun Tzu were all about navigating friction using information and positioning. Then Clausewitz formalized the fog of war. But here is where our story takes a kind of weird turn. By the 1980s, during the industrial positioning era, corporate executives somehow convinced themselves they could literally plan the fog away. They actually thought if they just analyzed the industry structure hard enough, the ocean would just stand still for them. But today, in the 2020s, with massive complexity and AI everywhere, we are finally waking up from that dream. We're returning to the fundamental truth. Strategy absolutely has to be a continuous navigation system. Which brings us to Section 1, the illusion of maps. So you might be wondering, but Grandpa, what happens if the map is just plain wrong? Well, that creates what we call false complexity. Honestly, the biggest danger to our ship isn't the raging storms or the giant waves. It's the crew's unspoken fears. It's the artificial bureaucracy, the filtered communication, and really, the toxic silence that forms when the sailors in the crow's nest learn not to call out the rocks ahead. Why? Because the captain only wants to hear that the map is correct. This self-generated noise kills way more ships than the actual ocean ever could. Moving right along to Section 2, the 3 running strategies. Here's the secret, my dear. Every single ship is actually running 3 different captain's logs at the exact same time. Strategy isn't just one document. It's like a living tripod, and all 3 legs are moving simultaneously, right now, in every organization. First up, we have the wished strategy versus the real strategy. Wished strategy? That's the map the captain wishes they were following. It's the declared intent, the gorgeous slide deck, that bold speech given at the annual offsite. But the real strategy? That's where the crew is actually steering the ship. It's visible in the actual choices, where the money is literally being spent and the trade-offs being made every single day down in the engine room. And let me tell you, there is very often a massive, dangerous gap between what we wish we were doing and what we are actually doing. But then there is the third, and honestly the most mysterious log. The implied strategy. This is the invisible current of the ocean. The implied strategy is basically the most favorable choice the actual situation is affording you right now. It doesn't belong to the captain, and it doesn't belong to the crew. It belongs to the sea itself. It is the smartest available move. And here's the crazy part. It exists whether the crew names it or not. The ocean's currents are pulling you, regardless of whether you want to acknowledge them. So, to put this all together, we have the wished strategy, which is our map, the real strategy, which is our ship's actual path, and the implied strategy, which is the changing ocean. The grand challenge for any modern organization isn't just executing the wished map better. No, it's about closing the opportunity gap between the ship's actual path, the real strategy, and what the changing ocean is demanding of us, the implied strategy. This leads us into Section 3, Black Markets of Common Sense. Now here's a really surprising twist in our bedtime tale. When the official map is completely wrong and the captain just absolutely refuses to see the changing ocean, how does the crew survive? How does the ship not sink to the bottom? Well, they survive because of the black market of common sense. When corporate politics deny the reality of the ocean, informal networks of sensible, hardworking people spring up. They quietly do what they know is right to keep the ship afloat, secretly ignoring the terrible corporate planning. The real strategy lives right here, in the shadows. administered by people who just want the ship to survive the night. But this survival tactic comes at a terrible price. When you keep the truth hidden away on the black market, you accumulate what we call conversational debt. It's this toxic weight of unspoken trade-offs. It's all the things everyone on the deck can plainly see, but absolutely no one dares to say out loud to the captain. The longer this debt builds up, the heavier the ship gets, until eventually, the crew is entirely paralyzed by their own fear of speaking the truth. Section 4. AI and the implied strategy. And just when it seems the fog is way too thick, a new, almost magical-seeming tool arrives in our story. Artificial intelligence. It hums with computing power, promising to see right through the darkness. Which begs the childlike question. Can an AI compass save a lost ship? Well, a lot of captains today really believe it can. They think AI is just going to magically fix their broken strategic plans, instantly clear their conversational debt, and align the crew. They think they can just plug it in and let it steer the whole shebang. But remember this absolutely fundamental rule. You cannot automate coordination you have not yet achieved. AI is not some magic compass that invents a destination out of thin air. AI is a reader. It's an always-on compiler. If the crew is hiding their true actions on the black market, if the conversational debt is sky high and the real strategy is totally unspoken, AI just cannot read it. If you apply AI to an incoherent, secretive crew, all it does is process their noise and dysfunction faster. To actually use AI, you have to make yourself legible. You literally have to say what you are doing. And that beautifully leads us to how a healthy crew actually navigates. They use the keep-on strategy loop. And this isn't some fancy annual offsite meeting. It's a constant, everyday rhythm. First, you surface. You look honestly at where you are spending your time and money. What does that actually reveal about your real strategy? Second, you test. Where are we surprised? Because surprise isn't a failure, right? It's a signal the ocean is changing. And finally, you rebalance. You ask, what is the smartest move the ocean affords us right now? You have to constantly make your actions readable so AI can act as a warning system, flagging tensions long before you hit the rocks. Bringing us to our final part, Section 5, shorten the delay. We are reaching the climax of our story now, with the ultimate lesson for any crew, and it's represented by a simple year, 2007. This is a massive cautionary tale about Nokia. In 2007, Nokia faced a catastrophic delay of surprise. The signals that the mobile phone ocean was drastically changing had been visible to their engineers for literally years. The implied strategy was screaming at them, but the organization was completely blinded by false complexity and conversational debt. They just couldn't read the signals. You see, the primary measure of your ship's performance isn't whether you followed the map perfectly. No, it's your delay of surprise. How fast do you realize you're wrong and adjust? This entirely transforms leadership as we know it. It completely dismantles the old idea of strategy as a static document produced by some isolated genius. The real job of the strategist, the true captain, is to orchestrate an environment where the crew can honestly read the sea. You have to design conditions where people feel safe to speak up. You surface what the black market already knows. You maintain continuous conversations, relentlessly reduce that toxic conversational debt, and always, always measure your delay of surprise. You stop writing rigid plans, and you start building a deeply aware, continuous navigation system. And so, as the fire burns down in our little library, I leave you with this final, piercing question to just hang in the air. Look at your own ship. Look at your own crew. Are you reading the world as it actually is right now? Are you sensing the implied strategy of the situation? Or are you just staring blindly at an outdated map, hoping the ocean will somehow conform to your wishes? Sleep on that, little one. It's the most important question you'll ever ask.